The rain hammered against the windows of the penthouse suite as Emma pressed her back against the door, her chest heaving, her white blouse clinging to her skin. David stood 3 feet away, his shirt half unbuttoned, his dark eyes blazing with an emotion that made her knees weak. "Tell me to leave," he said, his voice rough, broken. "Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me not to love you, Emma. Please." Her fingers gripped the doorknob behind her, knuckles white. Every rational thought in her mind screamed at her to say the words. To push him away. To remember why this could never work. Why loving him would destroy everything she'd built. But as thunder rolled across the Lagos skyline and lightning illuminated his face, the raw vulnerability there, the desperate hope, she knew she was already lost. "I can't," she whispered, and the space between them evaporated. "Now, let's go back to where it all began. Welcome back to African Love Chronicles, your favorite place for stories soaked in passion and soul-deep romance. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to tell us your favorite part of the story. Your support keeps these love tales flowing strong. Thanks for always supporting us. Now, grab your popcorn and let's dive in." 3 months earlier, Emma Clark adjusted her blazer for the 3rd time in the elevator, watching the numbers climb toward the 42nd floor. Her reflection in the polished chrome showed a confident 28-year-old woman in a navy suit, her dark curly hair pulled back in a professional bun, brown eyes steady despite the butterflies wreaking havoc in her stomach. This interview could change everything. Premier Global Enterprises was the largest tech investment firm in West Africa, and the position of Senior Communications Director was exactly what she needed to finally prove herself. To show her father that she'd made the right choice leaving London and coming back to Nigeria. To show everyone who doubted her that Emma Clark didn't need anyone's name or connections to succeed. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. The reception area was all glass and steel, modern art on the walls, and a view of Victoria Island that made her breath catch. Behind a sleek desk sat a young woman with perfect makeup and a professional smile. "Emma Clark for the 9 a.m. interview," Emma said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "Of course. They're expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall, 3rd door on your right." Emma's heels clicked on the marble floor as she walked, mentally reviewing her portfolio. 5 years at a top London PR firm, 2 successful startup launches, a viral campaign that had tripled client engagement. She had this. She pushed open the conference room door. 3 people sat at a long table, 2 middle-aged men in suits and a woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. But it was the man standing by the window who made Emma's step falter. He turned, and the world seemed to slow down. David Okonkwo was even more striking in person than in the business magazines. Tall, easily 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his charcoal suit perfectly. His skin was the deep brown of polished mahogany, his jaw sharp, his lips full. But it was his eyes that caught her. Dark, intense, intelligent eyes that seemed to see straight through her professional armor. "Miss Clark," he said, his voice deep and smooth, with the slightest British accent underneath his Nigerian inflection. "Please have a seat." Emma forced her legs to move, to carry her to the chair across from the panel. She set her portfolio down carefully, buying herself a moment to collect her scattered thoughts. What was wrong with her? She'd met attractive men before. Worked with them. This was just another interview. But when David sat down at the head of the table, when his eyes met hers again, something electric passed between them. A recognition. A spark. She saw his hand tighten on his pen. Saw him clear his throat before speaking. "Let's begin," he said. "Tell us why you want this position." Emma launched into her prepared speech, but she was intensely aware of David's gaze on her. How he leaned forward when she discussed her vision for the company's public image. How the corner of his mouth lifted slightly when she made a joke about corporate buzzwords. The other interviewers asked questions about her experience, her approach to crisis management, her thoughts on the Nigerian tech sector. Emma answered each one confidently, her years of training kicking in. But it was David's questions that challenged her. "You left a prestigious position in London," he said, studying her with those penetrating eyes. "Why come back to Nigeria now?" Emma met his gaze steadily. "Because this is home. Because the real innovation, the real growth is happening here. Not in London boardrooms where executives make decisions about African markets without understanding them. I want to be part of building something that matters." Something flickered in his expression. Approval? Interest? "And what makes you think you understand Nigerian markets better than our current team?" His tone was challenging but not hostile. You've been abroad for 5 years. I don't presume to understand everything, Emma said honestly. But I understand something your team might miss. How to bridge the gap between international investors and local innovation. How to tell authentic stories that resonate both globally and locally. I'm not here to be another foreign expert. I'm here because I see the potential everyone else is sleeping on. David's lips curved into a small smile. Interesting. The interview continued for another 30 minutes. Emma could feel the chemistry in the room, the way the other interviewers glanced between her and David, noting the tension. Finally, the woman with gray hair, Mrs. Adeyemi, the HR director, closed her notebook. Thank you, Miss Clark. We have a few more candidates to interview, but we'll be in touch by the end of the week. Emma stood, shaking hands with each panel member. When she reached David, his hand was warm and strong around hers, holding for just a second longer than professionally necessary. It was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Clark, he said. Likewise, Mr. Okonkwo. She forced herself to walk out calmly, to not look back, even though every cell in her body wanted to turn and see if he was watching her leave. In the elevator, she finally let out the breath she'd been holding. What was that? She whispered to her reflection. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Rita. Rita, how did it go? Emma, I don't know. Either really well, or I just made a complete fool of myself. Rita, details. Coffee in an hour? Emma, make it wine. I need wine. Emma pushed open the door to the Grape Escape, Rita's favorite wine bar in Lekki. The afternoon crowd was light, a few business people having late lunches, couples on dates. Rita waved from a corner booth, already halfway through a glass of rose. Tell me everything, Rita demanded as soon as Emma slid into the seat. And don't leave out any details. Rita Adebayo had been Emma's best friend since secondary school, before Emma's family had moved to London. Where Emma was reserved and cautious, Rita was bold and spontaneous. She was also the only person who'd supported Emma's decision to return to Nigeria without asking if she was sure she wanted to leave her fancy London life. Emma groaned and buried her face in her hands. I think I'm in trouble. Good trouble or bad trouble? Both. A waiter appeared, and Emma ordered a glass of white wine before turning back to Rita. So you know how I had the interview at Premier Global? The job you've been obsessing over for 3 weeks? Yes, vaguely aware. David Okonkwo was on the interview panel. Rita's eyes widened. The David Okonkwo? Forbes 30 under 30, youngest CEO in Nigerian tech history. That David Okonkwo. The same. And Emma took a long sip of wine. And Rita, I've never felt anything like that. The moment he looked at me, it was like everything else disappeared. I could barely think straight. Rita leaned forward, practically vibrating with excitement. Did he feel it too? Was there chemistry? I think so. He kept asking me these intense questions, and the way he looked at me. Emma shook her head. But that's exactly the problem. I need this job, Rita. I can't afford to have some schoolgirl crush on my potential boss ruin this opportunity. Who says it would ruin anything? Rita waggled her eyebrows. Maybe it would make everything better. Office romance, stolen kisses in the supply closet. Rita, I'm just saying, you've been back in Lagos for 2 months, and you've done nothing but work on your portfolio and avoid your mother's matchmaking attempts. Maybe the universe is telling you something. Emma wanted to argue, but the truth was, she couldn't stop thinking about David. The intensity in his eyes. The way his voice had dropped slightly when he'd said her name. The current of electricity that had run between them when they'd shaken hands. Even if, and this is a huge if, even if something was there, it doesn't matter. Office relationships are complicated. And if he's my boss? That's a power dynamic nightmare waiting to happen. True, Rita conceded. But you're assuming you got the job. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Rita laughed. You know what I mean. Don't borrow trouble. Wait and see what happens. Maybe you didn't get the job, and then you're free to pursue Mr. Tall, Dark, and CEO without any ethical complications. But Emma realized, with a sinking feeling, that she wanted the job, and she wanted David. And she had no idea how to navigate those two desires pulling her in opposite directions. Her phone buzzed. An email notification. From Premier Global Enterprises. Emma's heart stopped. Rita, they just emailed me. Already. Open it. With shaking fingers, Emma opened the email. Dear Miss Clark, thank you for taking the time to interview with us today. We were impressed with your qualifications and vision. We would like to invite you to a second interview, a one-on-one meeting with our CEO, David Okonkwo, Tomorrow at 2 p.m. to discuss the role in more detail. Please confirm your availability. Best regards. Mrs. Adeyemi, HR Director, Premier Global Enterprises. Rita squealed. A second interview. With David. Alone. Emma's stomach flipped. A one-on-one interview. Just her and David. In a room together. For who knew how long. I'm doomed, she whispered. Rita raised her glass. Or you're about to have the most exciting day of your life. Emma changed outfits 4 times the next morning. Too professional. Too casual. Too formal. Too everything. She finally settled on a burgundy dress with a modest neckline and a fitted waist, paired with black heels. Professional but feminine. Confident but not trying too hard. You're overthinking this, she told her reflection. But when she arrived at Premier Global at 1:55 p.m., her hands were clammy despite the air conditioning in the building. This time, Mrs. Adeyemi herself met her at reception. Miss Clark, right on time. Mr. Okonkwo's office is this way. They walked past cubicles and glass-walled meeting rooms, employees glancing up curiously as they passed. Emma kept her head high, her expression neutral, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. Mrs. Adeyemi stopped at a massive oak door. Mr. Okonkwo can be intense. Don't let that intimidate you. He respects people who stand their ground. Before Emma could process that warning, Mrs. Adeyemi knocked twice and pushed the door open. Miss Clark to see you, sir. Send her in. That voice. Deep and smooth, and somehow even more affecting than she remembered. Emma stepped into David Okonkwo's office, and the door clicked shut behind her. The space was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos, sleek furniture, bookshelves lined with titles rang in ing from business strategy to African literature. But Emma barely noticed the decor because David was standing behind his desk, his jacket off, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked tired, she realized. There were shadows under his eyes, and his tie was loosened, as if he'd been working all night. Miss Clark, he said. Thank you for coming on short notice. Mr. Okonkwo. She moved forward, shaking his offered hand. Again, that electric connection. She released his hand quickly. Please sit. He gestured to a chair across from his desk, but instead of sitting behind the desk, he came around and sat in the chair next to hers. Closer. More intimate. Emma's breath caught. I'll be direct, David said, his dark eyes fixed on hers. Everyone on the panel was impressed with you yesterday. Your experience, your vision, your answers. You're exactly what this company needs. Hope flared in Emma's chest. Thank you. But I have concerns. The hope wavered. Concerns? David leaned back, his gaze never leaving hers. This position requires complete trust. My communications director will be privy to sensitive information. Merger plans, investor strategies, crisis situations. They'll be representing me and this company in high-pressure situations. I understand that. Let me finish. His tone was gentle but firm. I need to know that the person in this role is committed. That they won't jump ship the moment a better offer comes along. That they're here because they believe in what we're building, not just for their career advancement. Emma felt a flash of irritation. Is that what you think? That I'm using this as a stepping stone? I don't know, David said simply. That's why we're having this conversation. Tell me the real reason you came back to Nigeria, Emma. The use of her first name sent a shiver through her. She met his challenging gaze head-on. My father owns Clark Industries, she said quietly. Import-export. It's been in our family for 3 generations. David nodded. I know. Then you probably know he wanted me to join the company. He expected it, actually. That's why he sent me to London for university. To get the connections, the experience, to come back and eventually take over. But you didn't want that. I wanted to build something of my own. To succeed on my own merits, not because of my family name. Emma's voice grew passionate. In London, I was just another PR executive. Good at my job, but replaceable. Here, I can be part of something transformative. Nigerian tech is exploding, and I want to be part of telling that story. The real story, not the sanitized version international media feeds the world. David was quiet for a long moment, studying her. Your father must have been disappointed. Furious, Emma admitted. We barely speak now. He thinks I'm throwing away my future. That I'm being idealistic and naive. And are you? Maybe. She smiled slightly. But I'd rather be naive and fighting for something I believe in than comfortable and miserable in a life someone else chose for me. Something shifted in David's expression. A warmth entered his eyes. I know exactly what you mean. Do you? He stood, walking to the window, his hands in his pockets. Emma watched the way the sunlight played across his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the thoughtful set of his shoulders. My father wanted me to be a doctor, David said quietly. He's a surgeon. Brilliant man. Saved countless lives. He couldn't understand why I'd want to play with computers, as he put it. But you built this company anyway. I did. And he didn't speak to me for 2 years. David turned back to face her. We've reconciled now, somewhat. But I understand what it costs to choose your own path. The loneliness of it. The constant questioning if you made the right decision. The vulnerability in his admission made Emma's chest tight. This wasn't the intimidating CEO. This was a man who understood her in a way few people did. Do you regret it? She asked softly. Not for a second. His eyes locked with hers. Do you? No. The air between them seemed to thicken. David took a step toward her, then stopped himself. Emma, I should be honest with you. Her heart raced. About what? He ran a hand over his face, and she saw him struggle with something. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. If I offer you this job, our relationship has to remain strictly professional. I can't, he paused. There are lines that can't be crossed. Emma's stomach dropped. So he had felt it too. That connection, that pull. And he was drawing a boundary before anything could happen. She should have been relieved. This was exactly what she needed to hear. A clear professional boundary. So why did it feel like disappointment? I understand, she said, keeping her voice steady. I would never compromise my professional integrity, Mr. Okonkwo. He flinched slightly at the formal address. David. Please call me David. David, she repeated, and the name felt intimate on her tongue. You have my word. If you hire me, I'll give this job everything I have. And I'll maintain appropriate professional boundaries. He nodded slowly. Then I'd like to offer you the position. Senior Communications Director, starting Monday. Mrs. Adeyemi will send over the contract details. Emma should have been ecstatic. This was everything she'd worked for. Thank you. I accept. Welcome to Premier Global, Emma. He extended his hand. She took it. And for just a moment, his fingers tightened around hers, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that was decidedly unprofessional. Then he released her, stepping back, the CEO mask sliding back into place. Mrs. Adeyemi will show you out. I'll see you Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I'll be there. Emma walked to the door, proud that her legs didn't shake. But as her hand touched the doorknob, she heard him speak, so softly she almost missed it. Emma. She turned. David stood by the window, backlit by the Lagos skyline, his expression unreadable. Welcome to the team. But the way he looked at her, the heat in his eyes, said something entirely different. Welcome to something we're both going to have to fight. Emma's first week at Premier Global was a whirlwind. Mrs. Adeyemi gave her a tour of the building, introduced her to the communications team. 3 talented people who seemed relieved to finally have a director after the position had been empty for 6 months, and set her up in an office with a view of the city that still took her breath away every morning. The work was challenging and exhilarating. She reviewed ongoing campaigns, met with department heads to understand the company culture, and started drafting a comprehensive communications strategy for the upcoming product launch. But the hardest part? Avoiding David. No, not avoiding exactly. They saw each other constantly, in meetings, in the hallway, at the company-wide briefing on Wednesday morning. He was professional, courteous, always appropriate. But Emma felt his gaze on her. Caught him watching her during presentations, his expression thoughtful. And every time their eyes met, that same electric current ran between them, making her breath catch and her pulse race. It was driving her insane. You're distracted, Rita said Thursday night as they grabbed dinner at a restaurant in Ikoyi. I'm not distracted, I'm focused. There's a difference. You've been staring at that plantain for 5 minutes without taking a bite. That's not focus, that's distraction. Rita pointed her fork at Emma. It's him, isn't it? The gorgeous CEO. Emma groaned. Rita. I knew it. What happened? Has he made a move? Have you made a move? Please tell me there's been some kind of scandalous office encounter. No. God, no. We're being completely professional. Then what's the problem? Emma set down her fork. The problem is that being professional is the hardest thing I've ever done. Rita, every time I see him, I don't even know what I want. To talk to him. To know him. To jump his bones. Rita. Her friend laughed. Come on, Emma. You're a grown woman. You're allowed to be attracted to someone. Not my boss. Why not? You're both single adults. Neither of you is married or in a relationship, right? Right, but nothing. Look, I'm not saying you should do anything unprofessional. But maybe you're overthinking this. Maybe there's a way to get to know him better without crossing any lines. Emma wanted to believe that, but she'd seen the tension in David's shoulders when they were in the same room. The way he deliberately kept distance between them. He was fighting this attraction just as hard as she was, which meant he felt it too. And that made everything more complicated. Her phone buzzed. A work email, despite it being after 8 p.m. From David Okonkwo. To Emma Clark. Subject: Sunrise Media Partnership. Emma, I need you to prepare a media strategy for our potential partnership with Sunrise Media. This is confidential. Only senior leadership knows about it. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 6 p.m. to discuss? I know it's late notice and after hours, but this needs to be handled quickly. ***. David. Emma's heart hammered. An after-hours meeting. Alone in his office. This was either a terrible idea or... What is it? Rita asked. David wants to meet tomorrow evening. After hours. Rita's eyebrows shot up. Interesting. It's about work, Emma said quickly. A confidential media strategy. And he couldn't discuss it during normal business hours because it's confidential? Or because he wants to see you alone? Rita grinned. This is getting good. Emma threw a napkin at her. But as she typed out her response, ***, I'll be there ***. Her hands were shaking. Friday evening, Emma stayed late at the office, reviewing files on Sunrise Media and drafting preliminary strategy notes. Most of the staff had cleared out by 5:30, leaving the building quiet except for the hum of computers and the soft whir of air conditioning. At 5:55, Emma gathered her materials and walked to David's office. The door was ajar. She knocked softly. Come in. David sat behind his desk, his jacket off, his tie loosened. He looked exhausted but somehow even more attractive. There was something compelling about seeing him like this, vulnerable and human instead of the polished CEO. Emma, thank you for staying late. He gestured to the chairs. Please sit. She settled into the chair across from his desk, acutely aware that they were alone, that the building was nearly empty, that the sun was setting outside the windows, casting long shadows across his face. Focus, Emma. This is work. I reviewed the Sunrise Media files, she began. If we're looking at a partnership, the biggest challenge will be managing the narrative around. Wait, David held up a hand. Before we get into that, I need to apologize. Emma blinked. Apologize for what? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. For sending you that email. For asking you to meet after hours. It was inappropriate. It's about work, Emma said, confused. You needed to discuss a confidential matter. I could have scheduled a meeting during normal business hours. Found a conference room. Done this properly. His dark eyes met hers. But the truth is, I wanted an excuse to see you alone. And that's not fair to you. Emma's breath caught. The honesty in his admission, the rawness, made her heart race. David, please let me finish. He stood, pacing to the window. I told you we needed to maintain professional boundaries. I meant it. But Emma, this past week has been torture. Seeing you every day, working with you, watching how brilliant you are at your job, and not being able to. He trailed off, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. Emma stood slowly. Not being able to what? David turned, and the look in his eyes made her knees weak. Hunger. Longing. And something deeper, more dangerous. Not being able to know you, he said roughly. Really know you. Not as my employee, not in some professional capacity, but as Emma. The woman who left everything behind to build her own path. Who fights for what she believes in. Who looks at me like... Like what? She whispered. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. Suddenly he was close, so close she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could smell his cologne. Something woody and masculine that made her head spin. Like you're fighting this too, he said softly. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't feel this connection between us. Tell me I'm imagining it, and I'll back off. I'll be nothing but your professional, distant boss, and we'll never speak of this again. Emma's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. Every rational thought screamed at her to step back, to say the words he needed to hear, to protect her career and her reputation. But she was so tired of being rational. You're not imagining it, she admitted, her voice barely audible. David's eyes darkened. His hand lifted, hovering near her face, not quite touching. Emma, we can't, she whispered, even as her body swayed toward him. You're my boss. The power dynamic. I know. People would talk. They'd say I slept my way into this job. I know. It could destroy my credibility. Everything I've worked for. I know. His voice was anguished. Which is why I'm asking you, begging you, to tell me not to love you. The word hung between them. Love. Not attraction. Not infatuation. Love. David, tell me we can keep this professional. Tell me you only see me as your boss. Tell me there's no chance for anything more. His hand dropped and he stepped back. Give me the words, Emma, and I'll respect them. I swear to you, I will never cross that line or make you uncomfortable. But I need to hear you say it. Emma looked at him, really looked at him. At the vulnerability in his expression, the hope warring with resignation in his eyes. This proud, powerful man was laying himself bare for her. And she realized with sudden, terrifying clarity, she couldn't say those words. Because somewhere in the past week, somewhere between professional meetings and stolen glances, she'd started falling for him too. I can't, she said, her voice breaking. I can't tell you that. His sharp intake of breath was audible. Emma, but we still can't do this. She forced herself to take a step back, to put distance between them even though it felt like tearing away part of herself. Not now. Not while you're my boss. I won't compromise my integrity, and I won't let anyone question whether I earned this position. David's jaw clenched. Then what do? We wait. Emma's hands trembled, but her voice was steady. We stay professional. We focus on work. And maybe someday when the timing is better, when things are different. Someday. He said the word like a curse and a prayer. That could be months. Years. I know. And you're asking me to work with you every day, to see you, to know you're so close and yet completely off limits. Yes. She met his eyes. I'm asking you to wait for me. If this is real, if what we feel is worth anything, then it's worth waiting for. Worth doing right. David stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. All right, he said quietly. We wait. We stay professional. He walked back to his desk, putting the solid wood between them like a barrier. But Emma, yes. I meant what I said. I'm falling in love with you. And waiting isn't going to change that. If anything, it's going to make it worse. Emma's eyes burned with unshed tears. I know. They stood there for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. Then Emma gathered her materials, forcing herself back into professional mode. About the Sunrise Media strategy, she said, her voice only slightly unsteady. I think our best approach is. And they talked about work. They discussed strategies and timelines and media contacts. They were professional and appropriate and completely, utterly miserable. When Emma finally left his office at 8 p.m., she walked to her car on shaking legs, got inside, and let herself cry. Because she'd just done the right thing. And it felt like the worst decision of her life. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of careful professionalism. 3 weeks of stolen glances and deliberate distance. 3 weeks of Emma throwing herself into work with a ferocity that impressed her team and worried Rita. You're going to burn out, Rita warned over lunch. When was the last time you did something that wasn't work-related? I went to the gym yesterday. That doesn't count. I mean fun. Relaxation. You know, things normal humans do. Emma pushed her salad around her plate. I'm fine. You're miserable. And don't say you're not. I've known you too long. Rita leaned forward. How is it with David? Professional. Appropriate. Exactly how it should be. And exactly how you don't want it to be. Emma sighed. Rita, look, I get it. You're being noble. You're protecting your career. But Emma, life is short. And I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at him. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed. An email from David's assistant. Reminder, Premier Global Annual Charity Gala, Saturday evening, 7 p.m., Eco Hotel. Attendance mandatory for senior leadership. Asterisk, asterisk. Emma's stomach dropped. The gala. She'd seen it on her calendar, but had been deliberately not thinking about it. A formal event. With David. Where she'd have to watch him in a tuxedo, probably dancing with other women, being charming and gorgeous and completely off limits. What is it? Rita asked. The company gala is tomorrow night. Rita's eyes lit up. Perfect. You'll see him outside of work, maybe have a few drinks, loosen up. It's still a work event, Rita. But it's a party. Parties are different. Rita pulled out her phone. Come over tomorrow afternoon. We're going shopping, and then I'm doing your hair and makeup. You're going to look so stunning that David forgets every professional boundary he's ever had. Rita, that's the opposite of what I should be doing. Maybe. Rita grinned. Or maybe you need to remind him exactly what he's waiting for. Saturday evening, Emma stared at her reflection in Rita's full-length mirror and barely recognized herself. The dress was Rita's choice, a deep emerald green that hugged every curve before flowing to the floor. The neckline was elegant but daring, the back cut low, and there was a slit up one side that showed off her legs when she walked. Rita had styled Emma's hair in loose curls that cascaded over one shoulder, and her makeup was dramatic, smoky eyes, nude lips, a subtle glow to her skin. You look like a goddess, Rita declared. David is going to lose his mind. I'm not trying to make David lose his mind. I'm trying to survive a work event. Sure you are. That's why you're wearing the sexiest dress in Lagos. Rita handed Emma a clutch. Now go. Be fabulous. And text me every juicy detail. The Eco Hotel ballroom was transformed into an elegant wonderland. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, soft music from a live band. Lagos's elite mingled in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos, champagne glasses in hand. Emma took a deep breath and walked inside. Heads turned. She felt eyes on her, men's appreciative gazes, women's envious glances. But she only cared about one person's reaction. She scanned the room and found him. David stood near the bar, talking to a group of investors. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly, making him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. His bow tie was slightly loosened, and he held a glass of whiskey. As if he felt her gaze, he turned. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Emma watched his expression transform. His eyes widened. His lips parted. The glass in his hand tilted dangerously before he caught himself. Even from 30 feet away, she could feel the heat of his stare. The way his eyes traveled down her body and back up, slow and appreciative and hungry. Someone said something to him. He didn't respond. Couldn't seem to look away from her. Then Mrs. Adeyemi appeared at Emma's elbow. Emma, you look stunning. Come, there are some people I'd like you to meet. Emma let herself be led away, but she felt David's gaze burning into her back. The evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. Emma charmed donors, laughed at jokes, and played the part of the confident communications director. But she was intensely aware of David's presence. He moved through the room like a magnet, and she felt pulled toward him even when they were on opposite sides of the ballroom. They managed to avoid each other for 2 hours. But then the band shifted to slower music, and couples moved to the dance floor. Emma stood by a window, watching the lights of Lagos spread out below, when she felt him approach. Emma! That voice. Rough with barely controlled emotion. She turned. David stood a respectful distance away, but his eyes were dark with something that made her breath catch. David. You look. He swallowed hard. Incredible doesn't begin to cover it. Thank you. She fought to keep her voice steady. You clean up pretty well yourself. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Dance with me. Emma's heart stuttered. David. Just one dance. Please. He extended his hand. Everyone's dancing. It would look strange if the CEO and the communications director didn't interact at all. He was right. They'd been so careful to avoid each other all evening that people were starting to notice. Emma had caught several curious glances. One dance, she agreed, placing her hand in his. The contact sent electricity up her arm. David led her to the dance floor, and when he pulled her into his arms, Emma forgot how to breathe. His hand settled on her bare lower back, warm and firm against her skin. Her other hand rested on his shoulder. They were touching, finally touching after weeks of careful distance, and it was overwhelming. The music swelled, something slow and romantic, and David began to move, guiding her effortlessly across the floor. You're a good dancer, Emma managed. My mother insisted on lessons when I was 14. I fought her every step of the way. His thumb traced small circles on her back, probably unconsciously, and the sensation made her shiver. I'm grateful for them now. They swayed together, and Emma was acutely aware of how perfectly they fit. How natural this felt. How right. Emma, David said softly, his breath warm against her ear. This is torture. I know. Having you this close, feeling you in my arms, and knowing I can't. His hand tightened on her back. Tell me it's worth it. Tell me that waiting is going to lead somewhere. Emma pulled back slightly to look at his face. The raw emotion there, The longing, the frustration, the hope made her chest tight. I don't know, she admitted honestly. I want it to. But David, my career, my reputation, are more important than this. Than us. I understand. That's not what I'm saying. Emma's voice dropped, meant only for him. I'm saying I don't know how to have both. I don't know how to be with you without compromising everything I've worked for. And I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending I don't want you. David's eyes darkened. His hand slid higher on her back, pulling her infinitesimally closer. Emma! David! There you are! They sprang apart as a woman in a red dress swept toward them. She was beautiful, tall, elegant, with perfect makeup and a dazzling smile. Mrs. Chun, David said, his CO mask sliding into place. Good evening. I've been looking for you everywhere. You promised me a dance, remember? She looped her arm through his, then seemed to notice Emma for the first time. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting? Not at all, Emma said smoothly, stepping back. David was just being polite. I should circulate anyway. She walked away before David could protest, her heart hammering. She made it to the bar and ordered a glass of wine, her hands shaking slightly as she reached for it. Quite a performance, a male voice said beside her. Emma turned to find a man in his early 30s, handsome in a conventional way, with a confident smile. He wore an expensive suit and held a tumbler of whiskey. I'm sorry, Emma said. The dance with our illustrious CEO. You two looked very close. He extended his hand. Marcus Obi, Head of Business Development. Emma Clark, Communications Director. Oh, I know who you are. Everyone's been talking about David's brilliant new hire. His smile had an edge to it, though some wonder if your brilliance is the only reason he hired you so quickly. Emma's spine stiffened. Excuse me? No offense intended. It's just, David doesn't usually show such personal interest in employees. But with you, he seems quite invested. My qualifications speak for themselves, Mr. Obi. Of course. Marcus sipped his drink. I'm sure your 5 years at a London firm had nothing to do with landing a senior director role 3 weeks after interviewing. Pure merit. The implication was clear. And infuriating. If you have concerns about my hiring, I'm sure HR would be happy to review my credentials with you, Emma said coldly. Not necessary. I'm just making conversation. Marcus leaned closer. Word of advice, though? Be careful with David. He's a brilliant businessman, but he has a reputation. Beautiful women, short attention spans. I'd hate to see you get hurt when his interest inevitably wanes. Emma wanted to throw her wine in his face. But that would be unprofessional. So instead, she smiled sweetly. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Obi. But I'm more than capable of managing my professional relationships. She walked away, her blood boiling. Was this what people thought? That she'd slept her way into her position? That David had hired her because of attraction rather than competence? This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. Emma found a quiet corner and pulled out her phone, texting Rita. Emma, I need to leave. Now. Rita, what happened? Emma, I'll tell you later. Just this was a mistake. But before she could make her escape, David appeared in front of her. His expression was thunderous. What did Marcus say to you? Emma looked up, startled. What? I saw him talking to you. You looked upset. What did he say? Nothing. Just making conversation. Emma. David's voice was low, urgent. Marcus is. He's a good businessman but not a good person. If he said something inappropriate. He implied that I'm sleeping with you, Emma said bluntly. That you hired me because of attraction rather than qualifications. That I'm just another beautiful woman you'll lose interest in. David's jaw clenched, a muscle ticking. I'll fire him. You can't fire him for office gossip. The hell I can't. David looked ready to commit murder. Emma, what he said is exactly what I was afraid of. Emma's voice was tired. This is why we can't do this, David. People already think I'm trading on attraction. If we actually got involved, my credibility would be destroyed. Your credibility is based on your work, which is excellent. Is it? Emma met his eyes. Or am I just the woman sleeping with the CEO? That's all anyone would see. Everything I accomplish would be attributed to our relationship, not my skills. David ran a hand over his face, frustration radiating from him. So what? We just give up? Let office gossip dictate our lives. We do what we agreed to do. We wait. We stay professional. We don't give anyone ammunition to question my competence. And how long do we wait? Until you're no longer working for me? That could be years. I know. Emma. David reached for her, then caught himself, his hand dropping. They were in public. People were watching. He took a breath, visibly controlling himself. Fine. Professional. But I need you to know something. What? His eyes burned into hers. What Marcus said, that I have a reputation with women, that I'll lose interest, it's not true. I haven't been in a serious relationship in 3 years. I've been too focused on building this company. But Emma, what I feel for you isn't some passing attraction. It's Mr. Okonkwo? A staff member appeared. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the mayor just arrived, and he's asking to speak with you. David's jaw clenched. Tell him I'll be right there. The staff member hurried away. David looked at Emma, conflict written across his face. Go, Emma said quietly. This is your event. Your night. I'm just going to head home. Emma. Please, David. Just go. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. Might say to hell with the mayor and everyone else. But then he nodded, his expression pained. This isn't over, he said. We need to talk. Monday, Emma agreed. At the office. Professionally. David's eyes said he wanted to say more. Instead, he turned and walked away, his shoulders tense. Emma waited until he disappeared into the crowd, then grabbed her clutch and headed for the exit. She made it outside before the tears started. The next 2 weeks were hell. After the gala, the office gossip intensified. Emma heard whispers when she walked by, saw the speculative looks, caught fragments of conversations that stopped abruptly when she appeared. Did you see them dancing? She's only been here a month. I heard David interviewed her personally. Emma threw herself into work, determined to prove that she'd earned her position. She arrived early, stayed late, exceeded every expectation. The Sunrise media campaign launched successfully. Press coverage was overwhelmingly positive. Even her harshest critics had to admit she was good at her job. But it didn't stop the whispers. And David. David was suffering too. She could see it in the tension in his shoulders, the shadows under his eyes. They maintained their professional distance, but sometimes Emma would catch him watching her with such longing that it made her chest ache. They were both miserable. And for what? To satisfy office gossip? To maintain appearances? Emma was beginning to question her own decisions. It was a Friday evening, and most of the office had cleared out. Emma sat at her desk, reviewing analytics for the upcoming quarter, when someone knocked on her door. Marcus Obi. Emma's spine stiffened. Mr. Obi. Can I help you? Just thought I'd check in. See how you're settling in. He walked into her office uninvited, closing the door behind him. Warning bells went off in Emma's head. I'm actually about to head out. This won't take long. Marcus sat in the chair across from her desk, making himself comfortable. I wanted to apologize for my comments at the gala. I may have been out of line. Emma studied him warily. I appreciate that. It's just, I've worked for David for 4 years. I know him, and I know how he operates. Mr. Obi. Marcus, please. He leaned forward. Look, I'm going to be blunt. David's interested in you. Everyone can see it. And you're interested in him. Nothing wrong with that. You're both adults. I don't think my personal life is appropriate office conversation. Probably not. But I'm trying to help you, Emma. Marcus's smile was friendly, but something about it made Emma's skin crawl. David's a great boss, but he's not relationship material. Trust me, I've seen him go through women like they're disposable. And when things end, it's always the woman who suffers professionally. Thank you for your concern, but I'm serious. Take Sarah Michaels, our former legal director. Beautiful woman, brilliant lawyer. She and David had a thing for a few months. Then he lost interest, and suddenly she was pursuing other opportunities. Now she's working for a firm half the size at half the salary. Emma's stomach clenched. I don't believe David would. Wouldn't he? Marcus raised an eyebrow. He's a businessman first, Emma. When a relationship becomes inconvenient or uncomfortable, he removes the problem. And the problem is never him. Emma wanted to argue, to defend David. But a small, traitorous part of her brain whispered, what if he's right? Why are you telling me this? She asked. Marcus stood, straightening his suit. Because you seem like a smart woman. And I'd hate to see you throw away your career for a man who's just going to break your heart. He walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you're good at your job. You could have a real future here. Don't let a doomed romance ruin that. He left, and Emma sat frozen at her desk. Was he right? Was she being naive? She didn't know anything about David's past relationships. What if he did have a pattern of dating employees and then pushing them out when things got messy? No. She knew David. She'd seen his integrity, his character. Marcus was trying to manipulate her. But the seeds of doubt had been planted. Emma gathered her things and headed out. The office was quiet, most lights off. She walked toward the elevator, her mind spinning. Then she heard voices coming from David's office. The door was slightly ajar. "Can't keep going like this," a woman's voice said. "Familiar. Mrs. Adeyemi." "I know." David's voice, rough with frustration. Emma should have kept walking. Should have given them privacy. But something made her stop. "You need to make a decision," Mrs. Adeyemi continued. "Either pursue a relationship with Emma and deal with the consequences, or let her go. Transfer her to another department, recommend her for another company. But this limbo you're both in is affecting work. Let her go." David's voice was anguished. "Margaret, I can't. Can or won't." A pause. "David, I've known you for 10 years. You're a good man and Emma's a good woman. But this situation isn't sustainable. People are talking. It's creating a toxic environment. So what? I should just fire her to make the gossip stop." "Of course not. But maybe you should give her the option. Help her find another position, somewhere she can excel without this cloud over her head. Let her build her career without being associated with you." Silence. Emma's heart pounded. "Transfer her? Help her find another job? You're asking me to give up the woman I love to save her reputation," David said quietly. "I'm asking you to put her needs first. Which would you prefer? Emma staying here, miserable, with everyone questioning her competence? Or Emma thriving somewhere else, building the career she deserves?" Emma couldn't listen anymore. She turned and practically ran to the elevator, her vision blurring with tears. He loved her. David loved her. And he was considering sending her away. Emma made it to her car before completely breaking down. She sat in the driver's seat, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking. This was a disaster. She loved her job. She loved working at Premier Global. But more than that, and this was the terrifying truth she could no longer deny, she was falling in love with David. Maybe she already had. And loving him meant losing everything else. Her phone rang. Rita. Emma considered not answering, but Rita would just keep calling. "Hello." Her voice was thick with tears. "Emma? Oh my God, what happened?" And Emma told her everything. Marcus's warnings, the conversation she'd overheard, the impossible situation she was in. "So let me get this straight," Rita said when Emma finished. "You're in love with your boss, he's in love with you, but you can't be together because of office politics and your career? When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous." "That's because it is ridiculous, Emma. You're both adults. You both have feelings for each other. Why are you letting other people's opinions control your life? Because those opinions matter. Rita, you don't understand what it's like. Every accomplishment I have, people will attribute to my relationship with David. I'll never be taken seriously as a professional. Or," Rita said gently, "you'll be a professional who happens to be in a relationship with her boss. Emma, you're not the first person this has happened to. You won't be the last. Yes, there will be gossip. Yes, some people will be jerks about it. But so what? You know the truth. David knows the truth. The people who matter will see your work and respect you for it. And the people who don't matter? Screw them." Rita's voice was fierce. "Emma, you've spent your whole life trying to prove yourself. To your father, to your colleagues, to everyone. When are you going to stop caring what other people think and start living for yourself?" Emma wiped her eyes. I don't want to be that woman, Rita. The one who compromised her integrity for a man. You wouldn't be. You'd be a woman who fell in love while building an incredible career. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive." Rita paused. "But Emma, if you really can't handle the scrutiny, if your career is more important than a relationship with David, then maybe you should take Mrs. Adeyemi's advice. Transfer to another company. Remove yourself from the situation. I don't want to leave Premier Global." "Then what do you want?" Emma closed her eyes and finally admitted the truth. "I want David. I want my career. I want to stop being afraid of what people think." Her voice broke. "I want it all, Rita. And I don't know how to have it." "Then maybe," Rita said softly, "it's time to fight for it. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop trying to please everyone. Decide what you want, Emma, and go after it. Consequences be damned." After they hung up, Emma sat in her car for a long time thinking. Rita was right. She'd been so focused on protecting her reputation, on proving herself, that she'd forgotten to actually live. She'd been so afraid of judgment that she'd denied herself happiness. But was happiness with David worth the professional cost? As if summoned by her thoughts, her phone buzzed. A text from David. David, I saw you leave. Are you okay? Emma stared at the message, her heart racing. She could text back something professional and distant, could maintain the boundaries they'd set. Or she could be honest. Her fingers moved across the screen. Emma, no. I'm not okay. We need to talk. Really talk. The response came immediately. David, come to my place. I'll send you the address. Please, Emma. Let's stop pretending this isn't killing us both. Emma knew this was a line. Once she crossed it, there would be no going back to their careful professionalism. But maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. Emma, send me the address. David's penthouse was in Ikoyi, in one of the most exclusive buildings in Lagos. Emma gave her name to security, and they directed her to the private elevator that went directly to his floor. Her hands were shaking as she rode up. This was insane. Going to her boss's home at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. But she was so tired of being sensible. So tired of denying what she felt. The elevator opened directly into his foyer. And David was there, waiting for her. He'd changed out of his work clothes into jeans and a black t-shirt, and somehow he looked even more attractive. More real. The CEO mask was gone, replaced by raw vulnerability. Emma, he said, his voice rough. Thank you for coming. We need to talk. I know. He gestured toward the living room. Can I get you something to drink? Wine. Water. Water's fine. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the Lagos Lagoon, modern furniture in blacks and grays, artwork on the walls. But Emma barely noticed the decor. All her attention was on David as he handed her a glass of water, his fingers brushing hers in a contact that sent electricity through her. They sat on opposite ends of his leather couch, a careful distance between them. I overheard you and Mrs. Adeyemi tonight, Emma said. About transferring me to another department. Or helping me find another job. David flinched. Emma, is that what you want? For me to leave? God, no. He set down his water glass, running his hands through his hair. Emma, the last thing I want is for you to leave. But Margaret was right. This situation, what we're doing to each other, it's not sustainable. So you were going to make the decision for me? Send me away to save my career? I was considering every option, including stepping down as CEO. Emma's eyes widened. What? David looked at her, his expression serious. I've built Premier Global from nothing. It's my life's work. But Emma, if having you means giving up the company, I'll do it. I'll find someone else to run it, take a different position, remove the power dynamic between us. David, you can't do that. This company is everything to you. You're everything to me. The words hung in the air between them. Emma, I've been trying so hard to be professional, to respect your boundaries, to put your career first. But I'm going to lose my mind if I have to keep pretending I don't love you. There it was. The word again. Love. Emma's heart hammered. You said that before. At the gala. And I meant it. I love you, Emma Clark. David shifted closer, his eyes intense. I think I started falling in love with you the moment you walked into that interview. The way you challenged me, the fire in your eyes, your brilliant mind. And every day since has only made it worse. Watching you excel at your job, seeing you handle difficult situations with grace, getting to know the real you, the woman who fights for what she believes in, who cares so deeply, who makes me laugh and makes me think and makes me want to be better. Tears pricked Emma's eyes. David, let me finish. Please. He took her hand, and Emma let herself feel the warmth and strength of his touch. I know all the reasons this is complicated. The power dynamic, the office gossip, your career. I know I should be strong enough to let you go, to do what's best for you. But Emma, I'm selfish enough to fight for this. For us. So tell me, and be honest, do you feel anything for me? Is there any chance you could love me back? Because if there is, we'll figure out the rest. Together. Emma looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. At the hope and fear and love written there. And she made her choice. I already do, she whispered. Love you, I mean. I think I've been falling in love with you since that first interview. Maybe even before, when I researched the company and learned about you. Your vision, your integrity, everything you've built. And then I met you, and you were even better than I imagined. Smart and funny and kind, and so damn beautiful it hurts to look at you. David's breath caught. But I've been so scared, Emma continued, tears sliding down her cheeks now. Scared of people thinking I don't deserve my job. Scared of becoming the woman sleeping with the CEO. Scared of losing myself in this relationship and waking up one day to realize I compromised everything I believe in. Emma, but I'm more scared of losing you. She squeezed his hand. These past weeks have been torture. Pretending I don't feel this, keeping distance between us, lying to myself about what I want. And tonight, when I overheard that conversation, when I thought you might send me away, David, I realized that I've been so busy protecting my reputation that I forgot to actually live my life. What are you saying? Emma met his eyes. I'm saying screw professionalism. Screw office gossip. Screw everyone who thinks I can't be brilliant at my job and also in love with my boss. She cupped his face with her free hand. I'm saying I choose you, David. I choose us. And if that means dealing with gossip or judgment or whatever consequences come, then so be it. Because a life without you isn't worth living, reputation be damned. For a heartbeat, David stared at her. Then he moved. His hands framed her face, and he kissed her. It was nothing like Emma had imagined. It was better. His lips were soft and firm and perfect against hers, and the kiss was tender and desperate and full of weeks of pent-up longing. Emma melted into him, her hands sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. David groaned against her mouth, deepening the kiss. His arms came around her, pulling her into his lap, and Emma went willingly, straddling him, needing to be closer to feel him. They kissed like they were starving for each other. Because they were. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, David rested his forehead against hers. Are you sure? He asked, his voice rough. Emma, once we cross this line, there's no going back. Tomorrow, the gossip will be worse. People will talk. Let them talk. Emma kissed him again, soft and sweet. I'm tired of being afraid, David. I want this. I want you. He stood, lifting her with him effortlessly, and Emma wrapped her legs around his waist. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her neck. And I will. Any time, any reason. Just say the word. Don't stop, Emma whispered. Don't ever stop. David carried her to his bedroom, and Emma had a brief impression of a massive bed, soft lighting, more windows overlooking the city. But then he laid her down gently on the sheets, and all rational thought fled. He braced himself above her, his eyes dark and searching. You're sure? He asked again. In answer, Emma reached up and pulled him down into another kiss. This time, there was no hesitation. No holding back. David kissed her like he'd been dreaming about it for weeks, which he had. His hands traced her body, exploring, learning every curve and hollow. Emma arched into his touch, her fingers working at the buttons of his shirt. Emma, David groaned when she finally got his shirt off, her hands exploring the planes of his chest. God, Emma. He kissed down her neck, and Emma's breath came in short gasps. This was really happening. After weeks of wanting and waiting, David was touching her, kissing her, making her feel things she'd never felt before. His hands found the zipper of her dress, and he paused, his eyes meeting hers. Yes, she breathed. Yes, David. The dress slid off, and David's eyes darkened as he took in her body, clad only in black lace. You're so beautiful, he said reverently. Emma, you're perfect. He kissed her again, slower this time, worshipful. His hands traced patterns on her skin, finding every sensitive spot, making her gasp and moan and beg for more. Emma had been with men before, but this was different. This wasn't just physical attraction. This was intimacy, connection, love. When David finally positioned himself between her legs, when he looked into her eyes and asked one more time if she was sure, Emma pulled him down and kissed him with everything she felt. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love you, David. I love you too, he breathed. So much, Emma. So much. And then there were no more words. Just sensation. Just pleasure. Just the two of them, finally together, finally giving in to everything they'd been fighting. It was intense and passionate and tender all at once. David made love to her like she was precious, like he wanted to memorize every moment. And Emma gave herself completely, holding nothing back. When they finally tumbled over the edge together, Emma cried out his name, and David buried his face in her neck, whispering her name like a prayer. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, hearts racing, skin slick with sweat. David pulled her close, and Emma rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady thump of his heart. No regrets, he asked softly. Emma looked up at him, at this brilliant, beautiful man who loved her. Not one, she said honestly. You. Not a single one. He kissed her forehead. though I am slightly terrified about Monday morning. Emma laughed. Me too. But we'll figure it out. Together. Together, David agreed. Emma, I meant what I said earlier. If you want me to step down, to remove the power dynamic. No. Emma placed a finger on his lips. You built this company. You love what you do. I'm not going to let you give that up for me. Then what do we do? Emma thought about it. We're honest. We go to HR on Monday, disclose our relationship, put protections in place so no one can say I'm getting preferential treatment. We make sure everything is above board and professional, even if our personal relationship isn't. And the gossip? Let them gossip. Emma kissed his chest. I know the truth. You know the truth. And anyone who matters will see that I'm damn good at my job, relationship or not. David's arms tightened around her. You know people are going to be cruel. Marcus especially. He's going to make your life hell. Emma's jaw set. Then we'll deal with Marcus. Together. David, I'm not afraid anymore. Well, I am. But I'm more excited than afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what looks good on paper. And what I want is you. You have me, David promised. For as long as you'll have me, Emma Clark. You have all of me. They made love again, slower this time, savoring each moment. And when Emma finally fell asleep in David's arms, she felt more at peace than she had in weeks. Whatever Monday brought, they would face it together. Monday morning arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train. Emma woke in David's bed, sunlight streaming through the windows, his arm draped over her waist. For a moment, wrapped in warmth and happiness, she let herself just exist in this perfect bubble. Then reality crashed in. Today, they would have to face the office. Face the gossip. Make their relationship public and deal with the consequences. I can hear you overthinking, David murmured, his voice rough with sleep. He pulled her closer, kissing her shoulder. Good morning, beautiful. Emma turned in his arms, taking in his sleep-mussed hair and soft smile. God, she loved him. Good morning. She kissed him. How are you feeling about today? Terrified. Excited. Determined. He traced her jawline. Mostly grateful that I get to walk into that office with everyone knowing you're mine. Possessive much? When it comes to you? Absolutely. He kissed her again, deeper this time. Stay for breakfast? I need to go home and change. Can't exactly show up to work in Friday's clothes. Fair point. David sighed. Though I'd very much like to convince you to call in sick and spend the day in bed with me instead. Emma laughed. Tempting. But that would definitely not help our, we're professional argument. Also a fair point. They got ready slowly, stealing kisses between showers and coffee. David insisted on making her breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast that was only slightly burnt. And Emma felt a surge of affection watching him navigate his obviously rarely used kitchen. I should warn you, David said as Emma prepared to leave. I'm terrible at cooking. If this relationship is going to work, you're definitely in charge of meals. Noted. Emma kissed him at the door. I'll see you at the office? We should probably arrive separately. And Emma? He caught her hand. No matter what happens today, remember, I love you. We're in this together. Together, Emma echoed. Emma arrived at Premier Global at 8:45 a.m., dressed in a crisp white blouse and navy pants, her armor of professionalism firmly in place. She walked through the lobby with her head high, smiling at colleagues, projecting confidence she didn't entirely feel. But she could feel the stares. The whispered conversations that stopped when she passed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rita. Rita, how did it go? Details immediately. Emma, can't talk now. Lunch. Rita, you better tell me everything. And I mean everything. Don't skimp on details. Despite her nerves, Emma smiled. She made it to her office and found a note on her desk. From Mrs. Adeyemi. Emma, please come to my office at 9 a.m. We need to discuss an urgent matter. Emma's stomach dropped. So it was starting already. At 9 a.m. sharp, she knocked on Mrs. Adeyemi's door. Come in. Mrs. Adeyemi sat behind her desk, her expression neutral. David stood by the window, looking every inch the CEO in his charcoal suit. Emma, please sit, Mrs. Adeyemi said. I'll get straight to the point. It's come to my attention that you and David may have developed a personal relationship. Emma glanced at David. He gave her a small, encouraging nod. Yes, Emma said clearly. David and I are in a relationship. Mrs. Adeyemi sighed. I see. And when did this begin? This weekend, David answered. Though we've had feelings for each other since Emma was hired. We both fought it, tried to maintain professional boundaries. But ultimately, we decided our personal happiness was worth the professional complications. I see. Mrs. Adeyemi pulled out a form. Then we need to make this official. Premier Global has policies regarding workplace relationships, especially between superiors and subordinates. We'll need to file disclosure paperwork, put safeguards in place to prevent any perception of favoritism, and possibly restructure reporting lines. We understand, Emma said. I want everything to be above board. I don't want anyone to question my competence or think I'm receiving preferential treatment. Mrs. Adeyemi studied her for a moment. Emma, I'll be blunt. This is going to be difficult. People are already talking. Some will be supportive, but others. She shook her head. Others will be cruel. Are you prepared for that? No, Emma admitted honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. Mrs. Adeyemi, I'm good at my job. My work speaks for itself. And yes, I'm in a relationship with David. But one doesn't negate the other. A small smile touched Mrs. Adeyemi's lips. Good. That's the attitude you'll need. She slid the paperwork across the desk. Fill these out. David, as CEO, you'll need to sign off acknowledging the relationship. I'll also recommend that Emma report directly to me instead of you for performance reviews and salary decisions. That should eliminate most concerns about favoritism. David nodded. Whatever we need to do to protect Emma's reputation, we'll do it. And your own, Mrs. Adeyemi added. David, this affects you too. Some board members may have concerns. Let them have concerns, David said firmly. My personal life is my business. As long as it doesn't affect my ability to run this company, which it won't, they can voice their opinions and I'll listen politely and ignore them. Emma felt a rush of love for him. He was putting everything on the line for her. They spent the next hour going through paperwork, discussing policies, and setting up the new reporting structure. By the time they left Mrs. Adeyemi's office, Emma felt slightly more confident that they could navigate this professionally. But then she walked back to her floor and saw Marcus leaning against her office door, arms crossed, a smug expression on his face. Well, well, he said. The rumors are true then. You and David are officially an item. Emma's spine stiffened. My relationship status is none of your concern, Marcus. Oh, but it is. See, I'm head of business development. And when our CEO's judgment is compromised by his romantic entanglements, that affects the entire company. David's judgment is fine. Is it? Marcus stepped closer. Tell me, Emma, how much of your success here is due to your actual skills, and how much is due to the fact that you're sleeping with the boss? Emma's hand twitched with the urge to slap him. I got this job before there was any relationship. And my work has been exemplary, as you well know. Sure it has. Marcus's smile was vicious. But that's not what people are going to think. They're going to think you're a gold digger who seduced the CEO to advance your career. And honestly, I can't say I blame them. Mr. Obi. David's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. He stood a few feet away, and his expression was deadly. My office. Now. Marcus's smugness faltered. David, I was just. My. Office. Now. Marcus shot Emma a resentful look before walking away. David followed, but not before touching Emma's arm gently. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I'm fine, Emma lied. Go. Deal with him. David squeezed her arm and left. Emma walked into her office and closed the door, leaning against it. Her hands were shaking. This was only the beginning. By lunchtime, the entire office knew. Emma felt the stares everywhere she went. Some people smiled supportively. Others whispered behind their hands. A few seemed outright hostile. She met Rita at their usual spot, and her friend took one look at her face and ordered wine. That bad? Rita asked. Marcus cornered me. Called me a gold digger. Implied I slept my way into my job. Emma's voice was tight. And that was just the first hour. What did David do? Took him into his office. I don't know what happened, but Marcus hasn't spoken to me since. Emma took a long sip of wine. Rita, what if this was a mistake? What if I've ruined my career? Hey! Rita grabbed her hand. Look at me. You did not ruin your career. You fell in love. Those are two separate things. Are they? Because right now, it feels like everyone thinks I'm only successful because I'm with David. Then prove them wrong. Rita's voice was fierce. Keep doing your job brilliantly. Keep exceeding expectations. Make it impossible for anyone to deny your talent. Emma, you're one of the smartest, most capable people I know. Don't let assholes like Marcus make you doubt yourself. Emma squeezed her friend's hand. Thank you. Anytime. Now, tell me everything about your weekend with the sexy CEO. And I mean everything. Despite her stress, Emma laughed. And as she told Rita about Friday night and Saturday morning, about David's tenderness and passion and the way he made her feel loved, she remembered why she'd made this choice. Because being with David, having him in her life, was worth fighting for. She just hoped she was strong enough for the fight ahead. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Emma worked harder than she ever had in her life. She arrived before everyone else and left after them. She launched 2 successful campaigns, secured a major media partnership, and presented a quarterly communications strategy that even the board applauded. But the gossip persisted. She heard the whispers, saw the looks, dealt with subtle undermining from certain colleagues who seemed determined to prove she didn't deserve her position. Marcus was the worst. He questioned every decision she made in meetings, challenged her recommendations, made snide comments about personal bias affecting company strategy. David wanted to fire him. Emma begged him not to. It would only add fuel to the fire, make it seem like she was using her relationship for revenge. I hate this, David said one evening in his office, after everyone else had left. Emma had taken to staying late with him, both to work and to steal precious moments together. I hate watching them treat you like this. You're brilliant, Emma. You shouldn't have to prove yourself constantly. But I do, Emma said wearily. She sat on his couch, her shoes kicked off, exhausted. That's the reality of this situation. I have to be twice as good as everyone else just to be seen as half as competent. David sat beside her, pulling her against his chest. Tell me how to fix this. You can't. I just have to endure it. Eventually, they'll see my work speaks for itself. And if they don't, Emma was quiet for a moment. Then we'll deal with it. Together. David kissed the top of her head. I love you. And I'm sorry this is so hard. I love you too. And David? Even with all of this, I don't regret it. Not for a second. He held her tighter. Me neither. The breaking point came 3 weeks into their public relationship. Emma was presenting at a company-wide meeting, discussing the upcoming tech summit and Premier Global's sponsorship role. She was mid-presentation when Marcus raised his hand. Question, he said, his tone deceptively polite. How exactly did you secure Premier Global as the primary sponsor? That's a significant commitment from the summit organizers. Did your personal connections play a role? The room went silent. Everyone looked at Emma. She kept her voice level. I secured the sponsorship the same way I secure all partnerships, through professional negotiation, demonstrating the value Premier Global brings, and building relationships with key stakeholders. My personal life had nothing to do with it. Are you sure? Marcus pressed. Because I heard that David personally called the summit director. Almost like he was doing you a favor. Emma's jaw clenched. That call had been about something else entirely, clarifying contract terms, but Marcus was deliberately twisting it. Before she could respond, David stood. Marcus, he said, his voice cold. Your insinuation is inappropriate and insulting. Emma secured that sponsorship through her exceptional work. The call you're referring to was standard due diligence, which I would have done for any department head presenting a major partnership. Of course, Marcus said, but his smirk suggested he'd accomplished what he wanted, planting doubt in people's minds. The meeting continued, but Emma could barely focus. When it finally ended, she gathered her materials with shaking hands. Emma. Mrs. Adeyemi appeared beside her. My office. Please. Emma's stomach sank. This couldn't be good. In Mrs. Adeyemi's office, the HR director sat behind her desk, her expression serious. Sit, she said. Emma, we need to talk about Marcus. If this is about the meeting, this is about the pattern of behavior I've been observing. Marcus's treatment of you has crossed the line from skepticism into harassment. I've documented multiple instances of him undermining you, questioning your competence without cause, and making inappropriate comments about your relationship with David. Hope flickered in Emma's chest. So, you believe me? You see what he's doing? Of course I do. Emma, I've reviewed your work. It's exceptional. The Sunrise Media campaign exceeded all expectations. The Tech Summit sponsorship is a coup. Your metrics are the best we've seen in this department in years. Anyone with eyes can see you're talented. Then why hasn't anyone said anything? Why has everyone just let Marcus tear me down? Mrs. Adeyemi sighed. Because corporate politics are complicated. Marcus has been here longer, has relationships with board members. People are cautious about choosing sides. She leaned forward. But Emma, I'm not cautious. And neither is David. We've been building a case against Marcus for weeks. A case? Harassment. Hostile work environment. Insubordination. Mrs. Adeyemi pulled out a folder. We have documentation of everything. And after today's meeting, we have enough to justify termination. Emma's eyes widened. You're firing him? David is. Right now, actually. In his office, David sat across from Marcus, his expression granite. Your employment with Premier Global is terminated, effective immediately, David said. Security will escort you out. Your personal items will be shipped to you. Marcus's face turned red. You can't fire me. I've been with this company for 4 years. And in that time, you've been a valuable employee. But your recent behavior, specifically your harassment of Emma Clark, is unacceptable and grounds for immediate termination. Harassment? I was asking legitimate questions. You've been systematically undermining a senior director, making inappropriate comments about her relationship with me, and creating a hostile work environment. We have documentation of every instance. David's voice was cold. You're done here, Marcus. This is because of her, isn't it? Marcus snarled. You're choosing some woman you've been screwing for a few weeks over an employee who's been loyal for years. Careful, David said, his tone dangerous. You're already fired. Don't make this worse by saying something you'll regret. Worse? You've ruined my career. Do you have any idea what this will do to my reputation? About as much as your behavior did to Emma's. The difference is she didn't deserve it. David stood. Security is waiting outside. Go quietly, or I'll add escorted removal to your termination paperwork. Marcus stared at him with pure hatred. You'll regret this. Both of you. We'll take that risk. Goodbye, Marcus. By evening, news of Marcus's firing had spread through the office. Reactions were mixed. Some people were shocked, others sympathetic, a few openly pleased. Emma worked in her office until late, trying to process everything. Marcus was gone. Her biggest critic, her most vocal opponent, was no longer a problem. So why didn't she feel relieved? A knock on her door. David stepped inside, closing it behind him. Hey, he said softly. How are you? I don't know, Emma admitted. David, did you fire Marcus because of what he did to me? Yes. That's what I was afraid of. David crossed to her desk, leaning against it. Emma, Marcus was harassing you, creating a hostile work environment. Any HR department would have fired him. But it looks like I got you to fire him because he criticized me. It looks like I'm using our relationship to eliminate my enemies. Or it looks like a CEO protecting his employee from harassment. Not just any employee, Emma said quietly. His girlfriend. David, this is exactly what I was afraid of. People will say I'm using you. That I'm manipulating you. Let them say it. We know the truth. Do we? Emma stood pacing. David, be honest. If I wasn't your girlfriend, would you have fired Marcus today? David was quiet for a moment. I might have given him a warning first. Documented the behavior and given him a chance to correct it. So you did treat him differently because of me. No. I treated him more harshly because he targeted you specifically and deliberately. Emma, if Marcus had been harassing any other employee the way he harassed you, I would have fired him. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. The only difference is that because it was you, I was paying closer attention. I saw the pattern faster. Emma wanted to believe him, but the doubt gnawed at her. Emma. David cupped her face, making her look at him. I love you, but I'm also a businessman. I wouldn't compromise this company's integrity, not even for you. Marcus was fired because he deserved to be fired. That's the truth. And if people don't believe that, then they're wrong. He kissed her forehead. Emma, you can't control what people think. You can only control your actions. And your actions have been exemplary. Anyone who matters knows that. Emma leaned into him, letting his solid presence calm her racing thoughts. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared that I'm going to wake up one day and realize this relationship cost me everything I worked for. Then we'll build something new. Together. David held her close. Emma, I meant what I said weeks ago. If being with me means your career suffers, I'll step down. I'll find another position. We'll make this work. I don't want you to step down. Then what do you want? Emma pulled back, looking into his eyes. I want to stop being afraid. I want to trust that I'm good at my job, relationship or not. I want to believe that I can have you in my career. You can, David said firmly. You absolutely can. It won't be easy. There will be more Marcuses, more gossip, more challenges. But Emma, you're strong enough to handle it. I've seen your strength. I believe in you. His faith in her, unwavering and absolute, made Emma's eyes burn with tears. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. He kissed her, soft and tender. Now let's go home. Together. And tomorrow we'll face whatever comes. Together. Together, Emma agreed. And for the first time since this whole thing began, she started to believe they actually might survive it.